Hey, hello, welcome. This is a 3.2 main story quest discussion. So, if you haven't done the story yet for patch 3.2, then you might want to go do that and then maybe come back if you feel like it and want to talk about the plot. Overall, I thought it was pretty well done. I was quite happy with the direction they went. I think it was for the best that they didn't try and one up themselves from 3.1. I think 3.2 needed to be a slower patch, a more relaxed patch. The way these stories, are held in such high regard is that they do have the ebbs and flows, they do have the ups and downs, and you kind of need that in order for the high points to really impact the players the most. So yeah, I'm glad that we had this downtime. I think if we kept having incredibly high intense stories, I think eventually it loses its luster, and that kind of affects the entire feel of the overarching story. So I'm very pleased with it. I think I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed the design, the music. I think overall it's pretty good. I do have some problems with it. I think they overlooked a few things, but I'll get to that when I start talking about each piece. So the pacing was actually pretty good. I think it was a good idea to kind of split up the Darkside excursions into 3 parts. I think a lot of players kind of binge these stories. They kind of sit down and watch them or play them all at once, which, I mean, that works for some people, but I think a lot is lost along the way when people do that. I mean, sitting in front of a screen for 5-6 hours and actually focusing on all of the information you're given is actually quite difficult, especially for most people. That's why movies are like capped at like what, 2.5 hours max. So yeah, having that break in the middle meant that you could stop it and you could carry on with something else, then you could come back to it, whether that's a few hours later or if that's a few days later. I normally do consume these stories in sections, but this time I just decided to do the whole thing at once. I do think I would have enjoyed it a bit more if I did break it up, but I mean, it was still good anyway. I wanted to record it. This is the first time I actually recorded the entire story, so I wanted to record it all in one, essentially. So I'll probably take a different approach next time. But yeah, I'm glad they split it up. I think it does help with the pacing, and yeah, I think it's just overall more positive experience. You're less likely to be bored by the lengthy plot, especially because it's not exactly a high dopamine plot like we've had in the past. So the festival is really good, actually. I think the design was really well done. It really did feel like a festival. A lot of the props and the music and everything about it actually was really good. My only gripe with it is that they kind of took it away once you completed the story quest, which I'm not a fan of. Like, they must have spent so much effort making all the changes to the academy, and then to just have it disappear after the main quest is a little bit frustrating. I've heard there's loads of Easter eggs as well, which obviously most of the player base is never going to get to see, which I do think is a shame. But other than that, the actual festival I think was really well done. Yeah, it was a fun experience, I think, to go through, and a good setting for the story to take place in. So the Darkside, I think these are some of the best levels that we've had in WoW so far. I think I didn't think they would put that much effort in a patch that seemingly seems to be more of a slow patch. I mean, this is the first patch where we've not actually gotten a new area in quite some time. But going through the Darkside stages, levels, whatever you want to call it, I thought there was so much going on. I think I think the design was just really, really, really strong this patch. I think it's the best kind of dreamlike setting that we've had so far. There were so many things in the area to take your attention to sell the idea of, you know, the dark side and what it is, and how bizarre it is and how eerie it was as well. It did feel really, really eerie and strange, which I thought was really cool to go through. The music, as always, was great. I really enjoyed the festival music. The music played in the Darkside. The music played during climaxes as well. I'm not sure if they're as memorable as some past music choices, but I think, as always, I think they hit that bar of highest quality that Kuro is kind of well known for at this point. So I have no complaints. I'm sure I'll be listening to it more in the future. So as we know, the story was kind of based around Sigrika. It's our first proper introduction to her. I think they did really well. The design of Sigrika is really, really good. This is one of the most emotive characters we've had in Wuthering Waves so far, and it really shows in every cutscene, every animation, every interaction you have with Sigrika. You can really see how much love and care Kuro put into her. I do think they made Sigrika quite a relatable character. I think focusing on a kind of real world issue that many people experience, especially young people, I think kind of adds quite just a very relatable layer of depth to the character. I think the fact that, you know, everyone around her kind of expects her to succeed and everyone puts their issues onto her, and it's something that she's something that she's constantly struggling with, I think kind of says a lot about the type of character Sigrika is. And I think it also folds really well into the idea of the dark side and kind of, you know, the kind of anxieties that students do have. Like, it's a very, you know, very common thing to experience when going through that part of your life, when you go to secondary school or high school or college, university, whatever it is. You know, those feelings are very, very common, and I think a lot of players will be able to sympathize with Sigrika and understand where she's coming from and understand how difficult it is as well. It's not an easy thing to overcome, and I think they told that story really well, and it felt quite authentic to me the way that it was all done. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for Sigrika. I honestly do think she's one of the best characters that they've done so far, and it's kind of a shame that she's been put in a situation in terms of, you know, summoning for her. I think she's been put in a situation where a lot of players won't go for her, or it doesn't make sense to, which is really unfortunate, but I think story-wise and development-wise, I think she's been done really well. It's one of the first characters we've had that aren't romantic interest for Rover, which is a good thing, because people do joke that it's gathering wives, but not every character needs to be obsessed with the Rover, at least not romantically. And I think this was a good shout. This was a good direction for her as a character, especially being a younger character. I really did get the impression that it was more like a father-daughter relationship. And I'm not sure if that's just my headcanon. That might just be because of what we experienced in 3.1 with Imouth. But in a lot of ways that they communicated and mannerisms and, you know, just the way they were with each other, I think really made me feel like Rover was stepping into a parental figure. Which I really like, because it means that Rover is developing as a character in a quite a unique way that most characters in these stories don't get to show or don't get to evolve into. It makes them less one-dimensional, which is really, good for future stories as well. I did like the little tiny moments where Imeth was recognized, so it wasn't, they didn't make it so that 3.1 was kind of ignored and they moved on to a festival, because that would have been a bit silly, I think, and that would have been a disservice to the players and the story that they built so far. But I think Kuro did a really good job in kind of fitting in moments to show the aftermath, at least in Rover's mind, from what happened to Imeth. I think that's really good. I think that makes everything a lot more coherent. I know there were tiny bits and pieces that actually refer to her quite a lot, and things like her music, getting them out of the dark side and things like that. I think that was a good choice, linking it to 3.1, but then also not making it all about what happened to her as well. I liked the fact that we got a lot more resonators in this patch as well. It's something a lot of players have been asking for a long time, and we finally actually got multiple past resonators interacting with each other. And you know what? It's actually a little understated how, even though we're in an academy, we haven't actually really got to see much of academy life. It's been kind of spoken about and mentioned by multiple characters separately, but we haven't had a huge insight to it, and I feel like we got that this patch. We got bits of slice of life in this patch. We got a bit of normality. We got Sigrika and Lene playing in the arcade, and Chisa, Lene, and Sigrika like playing around towards the end, and like it seemed like it really felt like a school. Like it felt like they were school kids playing around and building a friendship. So I really do respect that. I think that was a really positive part of the story, of the quest, and I hope we see more of that. It just adds more depth and more layers to the region as a whole, and gives us a wider perspective of what life is like in Laharoy. Denia was interesting. I think she's got a really cool design. It's the first time we've actually seen her in game. It just really bothers me that she wasn't a suspect from Rover or Lucilla or Luke. It's really, really strange to me. Like, she's friends with Sigrika and Novora, yet Sigrika was suspected at first by Rover, but Denia was kind of just ignored. It's very, very strange. I don't know why they made that decision. Also, Denia's design kind of screams for Exodus. The red gloves, for example, like she was suspicious immediately. I don't know many people that didn't suspect her as being, an antagonist. I'm really not sure why they made it so obvious. It would not have taken much for them to, throw a bit of suspicion towards her. Just had Rover had a line or two suspecting her. So I'm not sure why they didn't do that. It's very, very strange. What I do find interesting about Denia, though, is her relationship with Sigrika, because I don't think it's just manipulation. I don't think she's pretending to be friends with Sigrika. From the little we've seen, it does seem like she genuinely cares. There's a moment towards the end where you see Denia is in the dark side, where you get a glimpse of her being worried, and that's quite interesting. And this is coming out a bit late, so we've actually seen some drip marketing, and we've seen the leak for the ultimates of Hiyuki and Denia. But in Denia's ult animation, it kind of supports what I've said as well. It does seem like there's some sort of tug of war going on with her. So I guess we'll see that either in the Segway story or in the 3.3 patch. But yeah, I'm quite interested to see where her character goes and how it develops and learn more about her. But right now, it's quite bare bones, which I get because Sigrika is the main focus this patch, so it's completely understandable. Chisa was in this patch. Chisa has needed to be a focus since in Laharoy, since basically we've started the 3.x series. It's very strange to me that she was such a big part at the end of the 2.x series and then comes to La Heroine and basically has not been a part of anything. I do assume she will be a bigger influence somewhere down the line. It would be a very weird decision if she wasn't. I've seen a lot of theories, and to be honest, it'd be really cool if those theories were true, but I guess time will tell. But yeah, I'm glad that we got to see more of her in this patch. We got to fight with her alongside Sigrika, which was really cool. It really felt organic as well. It didn't feel forced. She's a student at the academy, just like any of these NPCs are, so I don't see a problem with them incorporating more of the past resonators into the story, especially when it's focused around students generally. But yeah, it was really, really good to see her. I hope we see more of her. And as I mentioned before, I'm kind of glad that her and Sigrika and Lene seem to be having a friendship. Especially because Sigrika clearly has not had the best choice in friends at all. So that about does it, I think. Overall, I enjoyed the patch. It was a well-told story. I think there's a lot of references in it that you'd have to go back and watch to really notice the detail behind it. But you can tell this isn't like a rush patch. I understand this is, a filler patch before we get, a continuation on the main plot. But it feels like it's adding context. It doesn't feel like a filler. It doesn't feel like a waste of time to me. It feels like a development of the world, of the story, of the characters. And I think that's kind of what you want. I think that's best case scenario. I think the alternative would be that we don't get a story at all for these patches. So yeah, let me know what you think. Did you like Sigrika as a character? Are you frustrated with the direction that these in-between patches are going? Do you think Rover showed more parent tendencies in this patch, or was it just like a mentor relationship or a friendship, or, maybe some of you think that there was romantic connotations to it? Let me know. Yeah, and hopefully we find out more in the Segway patch and 3.3. I'm looking forward to it. So until then, guys, take care. I will talk to you soon. Peace.
Love is just